Welcome to From the Parapet. Embark on a whimsical bookish journey where we dive into lively fantasy debates hosted by two besties who never see eye to eye. And I was going to say welcome back, but this is our first podcast.
And welcome back. You've never joined us.
This is our first podcast called From the Parapet. My name is Heather. I use she, they pronouns.
And my name is Kelsey, and I use she, her pronouns.
And we're going to get started on our first introduction episode. So we'll talk more about each of ourselves, dive into kind of what the podcast entails, and just hope we sell it and you listen to us.
Please, the lights are going to get cut off.
So I guess we'll get started with some introductions. My name is Heather. I'm in my late 20s. I'm not going to think too hard about that or I will start spiraling. I'm a Pisces, so I love anything and everything artsy crartsy. I am a floral designer, so that means I get to do fun little weddings and bouquets, and hopefully we'll start a little micro series of every book we read, I'll make a bouquet or a flower arrangement kind of theme towards that, because I just really, really enjoy that. I am a little book lover, but we'll go more into detail about kind of where our love from books came from. But I read Fourth Wing, and I was like, this is the best book I've read of 2023, and I said, I need my best friend to read this. So after begging and pleading, because we never see eye to eye on books, and she will never finish anything I recommend her, she read it. What else was I gonna say? I think that's it on me. I'm a lover of true crime. I'm a lover of things.
You love things.
Me wondering what about myself, and I can't think of shit. It's so scary.
Oh my god.
What?
I just broke my mic. Just kidding, I fixed it.
Oh my god. I like to game. I like to do a lot of different things. ADHD, so I like to say I like to do a lot of things, and then I might get bored of them. But we're not going to get bored of the podcast. So, with that, Kelsey, do you want to introduce yourself?
I have so much to say. My name is Kelsey. I am 21 years old.
That's a lie.
I'm 25 years old. I'm a Leo. I actually don't really like a lot of things. There's very few things that I do enjoy, but I do enjoy music a lot. I have a pretty extensive vinyl collection that I'm proud of. And I love my dog. I'll probably talk about her a lot, for being honest. Her name's Sasha. She's perfect. She's never done anything wrong a day in her life, just like me. So,
except for eat raw chicken.
She's allowed to do that. She needs it.
Peter's gonna come on our podcast.
Well, I'm gonna face them face first. It's gonna be our scandal.
Oh my god.
Like, from the Parapet girls on like page 6 news. Loser podcast girls fighting PETA and losing. There's not much really to say more about me. I feel like Heather gives, what's that TikTok trend? It's like black cat friend and the
golden retriever.
Yeah, you're the golden retriever. I feel like I'm definitely the black cat.
See, that's so weird because in my relationship, I feel like I'm the black cat in my relationship.
Yeah.
And he's the golden retriever.
Yeah, that's just not the case in our friendship.
We don't really have very many friends, so.
I'll let her. It's kind of toxic. We're in a toxic friendship.
That's what happens when you're in your late 20s. You don't hang out with everyone because you realize a lot of people don't have great interests and good things for you. So you find your few and stick with them.
Stick to it, bud.
Okay, well, anything else you want to talk about yourself?
No.
None.
Nothing.
None.
The basics.
Okay, well, I guess that takes us into our next part. What?
I'm a Leo.
You already said that.
Did I?
That's very Leo of you.
Well, I'm a Leo.
No.
Just in case you guys forgot.
Just in case you didn't know, this is all about her.
This is my show.
Okay, so this, if you didn't pick up from how cringe it is and kind of how we're just giggling and laughing, this is our first podcast. So we're going to try to upload weekly. and how our episodes are going to be full of spoilers. And
yeah, I mean, one thing about me is I'm going to spoil something. I can't keep it to myself. If it's good, I can't keep it.
So this is your general warning for all future episodes. We're going to spoil shit.
Yeah.
We're not going to be like, oh, we're going to talk around it. I can't talk around shit.
I can't keep a secret, and I can't keep a spoil to myself.
So we'll put a message at the very beginning of every episode to like let you know, like sirens, like one of those emergency test alerts on your phone. There were spoiler alerts.
Insert like Kill Bill siren and then spoiler episode.
So we'll talk more about that. I don't know if we're going to get into any books today, but there will be spoilers. If you're looking for a spoil-free podcast, find someone with more patience and find a different podcast, because that's not us.
It's not us.
And kind of why we wanted to start this podcast is, I mentioned it before, I read Fourth Wing, and I've always wanted to start a podcast. Like, I listened to podcasts when I had an office job, which I don't anymore. Thank the heavens. Neurodivergent brains don't work well in office spaces. But I would listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and I would try to listen to different podcasts, and it's very hard for me to listen to podcasts. I just have to find someone that itches my brain right. And so when I would find the right person, I would dive deep. And so I was like, I want to be able to give like that serotonin boost, that nerd, like itch my brain really good for someone else, even just to talk about books. And so when I read Fourth Wing, my friends and I, we've gotten into reading, I'd say this past year.
Yeah.
Goodreads, we do Goodreads challenges, got library cards, like we really set the reading into flow. And so I read Fourth Wing, and the only person who had read it before was my partner, and he was there for me to be like, oh my god, he'll be a guest star on one of our episodes. But Kelsey has been reading kind of at the same time, a little different, and we just wanted to let my cup inside. And so I just wanted to make her experience Fourth Wing and say, I need you to read this. I need all your reactions. And then I need someone to gossip about, like with, and to experience all the things. And now that we've done that, we've read Fourth Wing, we're going into more fantasy books. She's pulled me into different ones. So that's a little bit about like why we wanted to start the podcast. And so it's called From the Parapet. But we will branch into other fantasy books. It's not going to be Fourth Wing exclusive. It will be Fourth Wing heavy, but I think this allows us to be like, we love Fourth Wing, but all the books aren't released. We're going to have fillers, because what if Rebecca Yarros doesn't put them out every 6 months? We got to find something else to supplement instead of
to feed you guys with.
So
don't worry, I have just the series.
We are reading that right now, but that's a little bit more about why we wanted to start the podcast. You want to go into detail about why you wanted to start a podcast or why you wanted to be involved?
I have never wanted to start a podcast, but I love my best friend and I love to talk.
Leo.
So I'm here, and I also actually have gotten like super into reading this year. I think I tried last year, but I just like I hit like a slump. This year, I mean, I finished like 3 books last week. So now here I am. I'm doing it. I love a damn good fantasy book.
Well,
I'll eat it up every single time.
This is a perfect transition to telling our listeners kind of more about you, your reading style, and why you love books.
Okay, I know exactly where to start. It was 5th grade. David Lotz brought in this book, and it was Twilight, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Why are you reading that hefty ass book? We are in 5th grade. We have a spelling test to worry about. No. He put me on, and ever since then, I've literally never looked back. I fell in love with Twilight. I think my social media name for years was Twilight Lover Girl. Like, I'm serious about it. That's my fucking series. And then after that, I was like, I love vampires. I love them so much. So I read what is it called? Thirst series. I don't know off the top of my head who that author is. Fucking chef's kiss, dude. I actually maybe might reread that now that I'm thinking about it, because I never finished the series because I was reading them as he was putting them out. So I think I only read the first like 3, and I think maybe there's like 5 or 6 of them, but it was such a good series. Oh my god. And then I read the Hunger Games series, of course, read that, ate it up, and that was like the first time that I read a book that I finished and there was like a hole in me. Like, I have never been so depressed. Katniss and Peeta, like, I was like in the relationship with them. like
You said throuple.
we were throupling because those were my bitches. And then I finished the book and I was like, now what? Like, what the fuck am I supposed to read? I never read Harry Potter. Sorry. I actually never even watched the movies until I was probably like 17 or 18.
Crazy.
And then I really, really liked them.
Yeah.
Like, I loved them. And
we
then
might have to do a series where we read the Harry Potter books.
that's gonna take me no time. I have no life at all. I could do it, I think.
We'll separate the art from the artist because
Yeah, fuck that old bitch.
my partner's trans, so
so
we hate TERFs, or now I've heard them called farts, which is feminist against, what is it? Farts. They're called farts.
Mm.
So it's TERFs, which is trans exclusionary radical feminist. Oh, it's feminist appropriating, like radical TERFs or something like that. That's a fart.
Okay.
So it's like a feminist appropriating radical TERF or something like that. I'll look it up, but I just love calling people farts. But yeah, we'll get into Harry Potter, but just tell me more about you. Sorry.
I don't think I read for maybe a very, very long time. Wattpad not included. I'm not gonna dance around it. We've all been there. I actually have never even, what's the other one called? AO3?
Yeah.
Never even used that.
You're
like,
a Wattpad exclusive?
I'm a Wattpad girl through and through. AO3 scares me. It makes me feel like I'm not supposed to be on that website.
Oh my god.
Wattpad though, through and through, that is my girl. But I didn't like read really for a very long time. And then when I started reading again, like this past year, like trying to get back into it, I was reading like exclusively like dark books, like feminine rage, like spooky books. Really loved those. But I read like 3 books back to back about like cannibalism. So I was like, I think maybe I should stop reading about cannibals for like the time being. And that's when Heather was like, bitch, you've got to read Fourth Wing. And I was like, I don't know, dude. You like some weird fucking books. I'm not about it. Like, I don't like any of the books she read. And I made her read a book for me. I can't remember. Daisy Jones and the fucking Six. God, I love that book. And she rated it like a 2. I was like, how could you do this to me? How could you fucking do this to me? So I've had like silent beef with her about book recommendations ever since she did me dirty on that one. But I read Fourth Wing and I went into it thinking I was going to hate it just because I was carrying that beef with me. Like, yeah. I was like, I fucking hate this book. It's so bad. And then I read it and I was like, damn, she was so right. It's so good. It's giving like Goblet of Fire, which is my favorite Harry Potter movie. So yeah, but I would love to talk about Throne of Glass, and we'll get there one day because I'll never shut the fuck up about it. I can't. I won't. I refuse. Like, even right now, thinking about books, I'm like, I can't wait till this episode's over so I can go back and finish this book. But yeah. Yeah, you just can't wait to be done filming? I mean, like, I'm having fun doing this, but I am thinking about that 4th book in there. I can't put it down. Like, it's so good. Yeah. And I won't accept any critiques from anyone about it because if you don't like that book, then you don't exist to me. Oh my god. I'm gonna stand firmly on that. To talk about like my journey into reading, my parents thought I was illiterate in like kindergarten. You're joking? No, I'm not. I wish I was. So that is awful. We have a late term diagnosis of autism, which will all make sense. You'll hear me talking, you'll be like, this bitch knows a lot about everything. But my parent, I like couldn't read, and so we used to play driving games of me sounding out cities, and they would pay me like $0.25 for hard ones, $0.05 for cheap ones, because I would classifies as like a hard city. Like the like grammar of it, so like the pronouncing of like
Chattahoochee would be a hard one. But if it was like a Lanesville, that would be like a 10 cent. Because I've always had a problem where I'd auto-predict. I would predict what I was reading. So if I'd see an L, I'd be like, oh, I know Louisville. Like, I wouldn't even read it. I would just predict. My head would predict what it was. And my parents were like, oh my God, this bitch can't read. So they would play those driving games with me because we'd be on the road a lot. But the first book I ever read was Click, Clack, Moo, The Cows That Type.
You know what? Now it's making so much sense why you insisted on buying that book at Barnes & Noble for your niece.
Yes, because my parents thought I was illiterate, and when I read that book, they like jumped for joy and then bought me the whole series.
Okay.
Yeah, they thought I wouldn't be able to read, and then little did they know.
I was a big reader growing up. Like, I think kindergarten. Like, I read the whole Junie B. Jones series, and then Shel Silverstein. I picked that up while we were at Barnes & Noble the other day. And, like, that was my childhood book. I had all of his poetry books, and I'd read them all the time. All the time.
And so once I read that book, I became a bookworm, like through and through, was always in the library, checked stuff out, would read the big, thick books when I was younger. In 8th grade, we did a book report, and we had like 2 or 3 weeks, and we went in the library, and I was like, I'm going to pick the biggest, fattest book we have. And it was Gone with the Wind, and it was like 600, 700 pages. My teacher was like, you can't read that in this amount of time. I didn't want to read it, but I said, oh, I'm going to read it to show you wrong. So I read that. I just have always loved reading. Remember when I read Twilight? Remember when I had to hide that I was reading Twilight because Christian households will do it to you, man.
Dude, yeah. I went to school with someone who wasn't even allowed to watch Harry Potter or speak about it.
I wasn't because it was of the devil. Yeah. And so very, not transformational, but like learning what genre I loved felt like learning more about myself, and also was like, ooh, your parents don't like that, but you're enjoying it. What is this? Yeah. And so I read the Harry Potter series in high school. I had to hide what I was reading. Had to make up lies about what I was reading because they went and look it up. They're like, what book are you reading? So it was a lot easier to say, oh, I'm reading something about da-da-da-da than saying like, oh, it's set in Forks, Washington, or I'm reading about the Triwizard Tournament. Like, so that was me with reading. Yeah. I always had a library card. And then I went to college, and then when you're forced to read academic writing, that's like not what you're interested in and want to study in. You want to drive spikes through your eyes. That's how I felt. So I did my undergrad and didn't really read. Did grad school. In grad school is when I finally like figured out what I was interested in researching and started reading more publications about like womanism, and reading more about multiculturalism, and like, oh, I'm like, okay, I can get back into reading. I can enjoy this.
Okay, scholar.
Stop.
Wait a minute.
I also had to learn and read the fucking APA manual. Yeah, so it's like the Publishing Association. But then it's like, I, in that time, read like To All the Boys I've Loved Before and started consuming that again. But then it's like the transition from scholarly reading and writing to like reading for fun. Crazy, because it's like you can't use excessive words. And I remember the first paper I wrote in grad school, I thought it was slay because I was like, oh, it's so descriptive and da-da-da-da. And I got such a shitty grade because they're like, this is not APA. Like, have you ever written an APA? I haven't. If you haven't written or read APA, it's like, use the least amount of words as possible. Don't make it fun. And it has to be just informational. And I was like, that sucks. So got out of grad school and realized when reading isn't assigned, I enjoyed it so much more. So I've always bought books, but I've bought books in the way of I'm going to plan to read these. And now I actually get to read them. But with my job, I drive a lot, so I like to read a book traditionally, but like when I'm in the car so much, like I drove, I think 250 or 300 miles this weekend, I consume audiobooks. I can't consume them at regular pace. I have to listen to them at like 1.7, 1.8, which I found out people think is crazy. Yesterday I was listening to it out loud, and one of my friends who's a wedding planner was like, are you listening to that at like 2 times speed? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I've heard of people doing that, but I've never seen someone do it. And I'm like, it's the only way my brain can process it. Because I feel like I've always been a fast reader. I need to consume stuff fast. If it's slow, you just lose my attention. But I have loved books. I feel like this past year I've really like started to figure out like kind of different genres and shit to read and try a little bit of everything. I feel like I like to like pick around and like, okay, this is a horror, this is a fantasy, this is, God, I read a 700-page hockey smut this year that was nasty.
Ew, like it had like maybe a trigger warning about like the kinks that were in that book.
Yeah.
And Heather was like, Kelsey, what is spitballing or snowballing or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, I don't know. So we had to like Urban Dictionary it because I felt like I was 47 years old not knowing what that meant. But no, she was like, yeah, like Heather doesn't do DNFs and I'm the DNF queen. If I can't get into it in 100 pages, I'm closing the book, I'm giving up. I don't care. I will not force myself to suffer through a book that I hate. I can't. And I feel like a lot of people just are so against DNFs. And I'm like, why? Why would you waste your time? Why would I waste my time, like 8 hours reading this book that's not good? The writing's awful. The timeline of this book is insane.
Oh my God.
I'm talking about Crave. That book was crazy. I kind of read the first one. The second one, I stopped and I made my grandma read it. She's hooked on the series. I don't know what that's about. That was crazy. But I'm a DNFer. I love them. I probably DNF'd like 12 books this year.
God, that kills me.
Yeah,
because I'm like, no matter what happens, I'm gonna have to finish it.
I can't see it through.
No.
I can't.
I feel like that's also like
fucking throw it away.
My perfectionism. And I'm like, oh my God, I started a book on Goodreads and it says I'm still fucking reading it. Like there's not a did not finish. Like,
nope.
So I'm gonna finish it.
Nope. I love a DNF.
God, that kills me.
Like I really did hate read Crave. I was like, it's so cringy. Like it's like so bad. It's like good. And then I finished the book and I was like going back. So it's like a 400, 500 page book, I think. Like it was pretty hefty. And I go back and I'm like counting up the timeline on this because it was like action packed, I guess, which I guess you can expect from a fantasy novel.
Yeah.
Bitch, the fucking timeline was 1 week. 1 week. 7 days. 7 days.
And that's what you
mistaken, it was like 7 to 9 days. And I was like, what do you just met this man. You almost died 6 times. Like, you found out that this happened, and now you're in love with this man after... I can't, like, you're trauma bonded, that's it. That's the storyline. You are not in love. I can't. So then when I picked up the second one, because I was like, it can't possibly get any worse than this. And it did. It did. I closed it after 50 pages, and I was like, well, here's the second book, Grandma. And she read it, so I bought her the third book. And she, like, tells me the plot line, because I'm like, well, I kind of want to, like, go back and reread it.
Yeah.
But, like, it was really bad. And when I'm reading a book, I am so particular with the language that needs to be used. Like, I'm all for saying slay and, like, when I'm, like, talking to you.
Yeah.
If I read the word slay in a fucking book, I will shoot myself in the head. Are you joking? And this girl was like, he gave me a WTF look. Are you DTF?
Ooh.
Like, and I'm like, okay, well, if it was, like, one time in the book, I can move past it because there was something... In Fourth Wing.
It was for the win. You said it was
yes,
for the win.
For the win. Oh my, okay, so I read that and I almost DNF'd Fourth Wing because of that. And I was like, okay, if I read it again, I just can't. Like, there's something about me where I'm like trying to get into it and she sets the scene so perfectly. So I was like, I can look past it.
Yeah.
She said it 2 or 3 times in that book and that was like my limit. I was like, oh no.
You're like,
I can't,
down.
I don't care how good this book is. I can't, if I have to read for the win one more time.
You're done.
I can't. And also the word helluva.
No, helluva is like on my
crazy.
like.
That's crazy to
yeah,
me.
I don't like
that word. And I don't like.
I don't use it in art language.
Yeah.
I cringe when I like hear it, and I'm like, and when I read it, I'm just like, ugh. Like my brain shudders.
I'm like, boo! Tomato, tomato, tomato. I can't.
This makes me want to like have a series on our podcast. Like maybe we do like episodes randomly of car wreck reads.
I would love to do that.
So,
I can hate read something, I think. I think I can hate read it.
Yeah, so it's like a car wreck of like, car wrecks are bad, but they're so bad you can't look away.
Yeah.
Like where everyone slows down to look.
Like those books that have like such a good plot. Like you read the back of it, you're in Target or like Walmart or Barnes & Noble and you're reading it and you're like, this is going to be so good. And then you read it and it's not, it's the opposite. But the plot is so, like the idea was there.
But...
And it just got lost along the way or something. I don't know. But that's crazy. I would love to do that.
Okay.
I am a hater of all things. God. And I love to find things that I hate.
She is the hater in the friendship. Mm-hmm. I'm always like, let's find a positive, let's do this. And she's like, that's fucking sucks.
Literally, like, she's like, let's... I asked to go on a nature walk one time. And when I'm thinking nature walk, I'm talking a stroll through the park. let's go up to the parkway and like, I don't know, walk a couple 100 feet. This bitch took me on a fucking hike. Like, I was dressed so cute because I was like, we're gonna take pictures and we're gonna sit and it's all gonna be level land. And she wants to take me on like a 2-mile hike uphill.
It was to some falls. Okay, so disclaimer, we live in East Tennessee, so like people hike and people go on like pretty walks, and there is this downloaded a hiking app and it was like Easy Trail.
It was not easy.
No, I would give that bitch hard. And like we are both physically not able to do a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Like bodies hate us, bad knees, bad ankles, bad everything. And I was like, dear God. And so she just looked like she had the most miserable time. I was like, do we need to leave?
Like, I felt like, I felt like maybe I was walking to my death. Like, it felt like I was walking to the gallows. Like, that's what it felt like to me on that hike. Like, I've never understood people that like to hike for fun. That's insane to me.
But you can read off of her face and how she's feeling if she fucking hates something.
Yeah.
Like, I'll always try to see the positive. I was like, we'll just take breaks, we'll make it, we'll get there. And she just like, if she could have kicked rocks off the side of the mountain, she would have. And just mumbling and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, you fucking hate this.
I can't.
Like if the energy, if she hates it, the energy, you will know. The energy will be bad.
Like, this is both my strength and my weakness. I'm like a vibe curator. Like, I can make the vibes there and they'll be great if I'm feeling it. If I'm not, you're gonna fucking know. And everyone around you is gonna know. And I'm gonna ruin the vibes. I can't help it. It's just, I hate suffering. So I'm like, if I'm suffering, I have to make sure everybody else is too.
Oh my
God. That's my strength and my weakness, my pros and my cons. Like, if I had to say, that's maybe like probably my worst one. Or at least top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say maybe number 2.
You said there's worse. Don't worry.
I feel like maybe there's worse, but I will ruin the vibes. Like, I used to do it just for fun. Like,
oh my God.
Specifically with my ex-boyfriend.
He deserved it.
He deserved it so bad. I would ruin the vibes and I'd giggle about it. Like, I would have so much fun doing it because I'm like, well, I'm not having any fun anymore, so nobody else is.
Oh my
And I would kill the vibes. Like, nobody ever wanted to hang out with us.
That'll do it.
But I got my way. So.
But please hang out with us.
but I won't do that here because I actually really enjoy talking about books, and I can't wait to have maybe I don't know, a 10-part series of me talking about Throne of Glass, because that will be coming, and I've already threatened Heather.
I know, she said before we filmed this episode I had to read 30 pages of the first book.
I was like, you need to start this book. It's so good. Like, I'm not even joking. I wouldn't say on Goodreads, if I finish a book, it's like an automatic like 2 to 3 stars for me.
Yeah.
Like, cause I mean, I'm a DNFer, so like if I don't like it, I'm not gonna suffer through it. So like every book I read is like a 3 stars, like standard. I give my 5 stars out sparingly, I would say. Like, my favorite book in the whole world is Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I think I rated that a 3-star on Goodreads. Like, I love that book, and I go back and I reread it. Like, it's just like a comfort read to me. And I think I've only given out in the past year maybe 3 or 4 or 5 stars, and one of them is This Is How You Lose the Time War. And if you haven't read that book, I'm literally begging you on my hands and knees. It's like kind of science fiction-y, and it feels like a love letter to literature. Like, I love that book, and I've begged everybody I know to read it. Every time we go to Barnes & Noble, I'll point it out to Heather, and I'm like, please read this book. Like, please. So good. I read it in a day, like, I think in one sitting. But the other 5 stars I gave, one, I think I rated Fourth Wing 5 stars. That was good. The other 2 are to Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
The second and third book, I gave those 5 stars. And I'm like, if I could sell anybody on a book series, it would be Throne of Glass. God, I love Selena. I love her. I could talk about her all day.
Oh my God.
I could.
So with this series, we're going to try to release not a lot, but more podcast series before the release of Iron Flame. So we're going to try to do like a recap, like not like a quick recap, but we're going to try to go like a few chapters at a time of Fourth Wing so we can all be ready for Iron Flame. And when Iron Flame goes and comes out, we're going to go to a midnight release, and I think we're just going to sit down and read it and do initial reactions and stuff like that, and then debrief it more. We're so excited for it, but
I can't wait. We're going to dress up.
It'll be cute.
We're going to dress up.
But we're going to have different segments of the podcast. So we'll title them, we'll put it in the description so it'll be easier to read, but we'll have like different sections. So we'll have one that's called From the Dragon's Den, which is our theories, our predictions, and kind of what we think is coming next. It could either be outlandish of like, maybe we're like, okay, this is like really out there, but because it's a 5-book series and we only have one book right now.
Yeah.
We have one book and then just a little crumb of Iron Flame. So
I feel like we're going to come up with some insane theories because I'm delusional.
Yeah.
Like when
I can make you believe anything.
Yeah, like I think I could really sell a delusion to these poor listeners. Like I'm like, you guys will not believe what I think is going to happen, and this is why.
But we're so picky with our theories because we've listened to a few podcasts. We're like, fucking turn it off. That one sucks. Like that's not a real prediction.
Yeah, and I'm like, where did you even get that from?
But
where's your evidence backing this up?
Yeah, we'll make sure to have like reasons of why we believe it and stuff like that. But that's called From the Dragon's Den. The next one is called Beyond the Mats. So these are going to be our chapter kind of reviews and recaps. But this is like where we talk all the trash, the gossip, the tea, and everything you'd hear on the mats and beyond them. Because, the sparring mats, people talk mad shit. And so we're like, okay, here's what you missed. Here's Beyond the Mats. Here's our training. Here's what we've learned. And our recaps. They'll vary from like how many chapter chunks we do. But I feel like those are going to be...
That's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, they'll be a little more hefty. And then our last one is Conscripted for Adventure. So that's where we're going to talk more about world lore, history, characters, kind of like who we think the characters are, what has happened to them, and just so we can build a little bit more and predictions and hopes and kind of what that looks like. So those are 3 different segments. Don't hold us to like making sure they're perfect. It might run over and bleed a little bit, but that's who we are. But we'll try to give those time frames in those videos.
I love that. I can't wait.
You said it's beautiful, we're just perfect.
It is. And I'm pretty excited about this. I'm actually really excited about my Fourth Wing reread. I loaned it to my grandmother and she's just really truly taken her sweet time reading it.
Yeah, she's slow. You might have to take Foster's copy. So with this, we'll try and get our videos edited and we'll figure out a day of the week when they're coming out. They will be available on all audio listening services. I found a way to do that. They'll also be available on our YouTube. And don't go into scrolling past videos. It was my Disney YouTube from when I worked at Disney World.
I don't claim that part of her life.
I was a cast member and I loved it. And I'm not a cringe Disney adult. There's a difference between Disney adults and Disney cast members or previous cast members. And I stand by that. Now, there's some creepy, crazy cast members. But... I feel like there's just like a general appreciation. If you worked at Disney, you kind of understand, like if you enjoyed your experience, kind of where that lies. But I feel like with that, we talked a shit ton.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. It was supposed to be a short video.
It's supposed to be like a 10-minute video, and we're like, here's 45 minutes.
Well, we're talkers. We enjoyed it. But
wait, this was great.
Yeah. So from our side of the world to yours,
That was cute.
have a great day.
Bye.
Also,
Just kidding, no bye.
No, I was like, I'm trying to figure out a recap. Like, if you take meds, take your meds, drink some water, get a snack, listen to your body.
Wash your face.
And read a good book.
And wash your face.
We're not going to be reviewing Girl Wash Your Face on here, though.
Like, girl, wash your face.
Shut up.
Kelsey, did you wash your face today? I did.
You did.
I did.
I was going to say that's not leftover eyeliner.
Yeah.
Okay. Signing off.
Toodaloo.